Good evening and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights Tuesday night stream. I appreciate everyone tuning in. And with me tonight is Colin and Brandon. Colin, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Literally the highlight of my week coming here and talking to you guys every week. So, always thrilled to be here.
100%. I feel like we have a great camaraderie on this team and definitely look forward to it each week too. Brandon, how you doing? I know you got a big weekend of chilling coming up, much deserved, but
Oh yeah.
how are you feeling going into that weekend?
Oh, it's been a blur. As I was telling him before the show, I haven't had a day off since the 8th. So it's 12 straight days and I work 10-hour days. So I'm pretty tired for this one, but it's Liverpool. I've always got the energy to talk to Liverpool. So I'm excited.
100%. And yeah, you're definitely not the only one running on fumes. It seems like half our team has been running on fumes and broken down at the side of the road. So that's pretty much what we're looking at a very crucial point in the season. Where to start at this point? I'm trying to think. How many players we got? Matip, Basic, Stoke. I don't know that he doesn't really count in terms of first teamers, but from first teamers, Matip's been out for a while, Basic is out for a while, Szoboszlai more recent, Alexander Arnold, Thiago had his brief Arsenal cameo. Allison, the big one, Jota and Curtis Jones, all out for the foreseeable future. It just is an absolute nightmare. Colin, what do you think about the latest additions? And out of that list, who are you most saddened to see sidelined?
Yeah, I mean, that list is like torture while you're reading through it. I'm like, oh no, they're all injured. I would make a good argument for Allison being the most important person that we're missing, just because of his kind of long-term consistency. And then I guess the other argument that I would make is that it's so disappointing to have Salah come back and look that good, and then to immediately lose him again is really like something especially terrible. So those are my two, like, that just I'm really beating myself up over.
Brandon, how about yourself? Who are you most lamenting for losses?
Not to repeat Colin, so I'll go somewhere else. I think it's Curtis, because Curtis has just blossomed into such a key cog to this machine. For him to have to go out for a few weeks, especially on the top of like Szoboszlai on the other side being out, like it's just thick and fast of all these injuries hitting us. But it's always depending on what games they're missing, because Allison, we can get by Luton without Allison. He probably wasn't playing in the cup final. That was always going to be Keller's spot. So I mean, we could get by a few games, but it's always that City game that's looming large. And but really, Curtis is the one I'm going to have the big shout on, because like he just blossomed into such a monumental part of this team over the last basically the past year. That he's such a key to this team now. It's pretty disappointing to see him go down when they're such a key part of the season.
Yeah, definitely agree. I couldn't believe it. Like, classic. I had my hopes up seeing the first reports that Jota's injury and Jones's injury might not be too bad, and I think they avoided, season-ending injuries, but they might only be back for like the last couple weeks. So, we'll see where we get to. But the big crunch games are coming in before then, and nothing bigger than.
It's like, what was it, like right before the Arsenal game, we were all kind of like celebrating the fact that like almost everybody was back and we had a healthy squad, and it's like 2 weeks later and the whole squad is decimated.
Literally me. I think I was literally like, we're getting healthy at the right time. We have a bunch of important games and like we're just hitting stride and we're getting healthy. And I said this in our WhatsApp group, and I'm like, I am like going back through all of the like poor decisions and like things that I've said over the past year, and I'm like, this is my fault. It's all like I've cursed us. This is a curse I've wrought upon ourselves for all of my transgressions. It's it is unbelievable how quickly it can turn from, wow, like look how amazingly we're set up for this, to, oh my goodness, we're like 2 players away from playing 18-year-olds against, Wolves. Like, you pick any number of like very professional and very good teams this run in. Like, oh.
I can't believe too the luck with like the impact injuries, like hamstring, and then like the reoccurrences of like a Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm kind of more annoyed we didn't take more precaution, but I also know that they wouldn't put the players out if they weren't sure that they could handle those minutes. But like the luck of two, Curtis Jones and Jota like going off in the same game from impact injuries. That's
5 minutes apart. Like,
yeah.
I was going to ask you guys what you thought about, like, do you think that, I really try not to just like blame doctors or, people who are professionals at, sports physiology or whatever it might be. It seems, and I was reading a lot and listening a lot, like from the Anfield Wrap was doing a lot of coverage, obviously, about it, and they're saying like, just the increase in minutes played because of extra time, or the increased minutes over the past 10 years with the like reducing of time in between games for the schedule, whatever, has all like led to these kinds of problems. You guys don't suppose that it is something that is up with the medical team? I like always try to think that I don't like, I don't believe that. I don't, but then so there's something that's like back here in my mind that's like, are you sure about that? Are you sure it's not something with the medical team?
Didn't we hire like Arsenal's medical team like a while back? I don't know if they were still around, but I remember we hired like one of Arsenal's doctors for like a leading role in our medical staff, and I was kind of like, why would you ever take an Arsenal medical staff member into the squad? Because have you seen Arsenal like prior to recently where they've done decent for injury wise? I know they'll complain a lot, but I think when you see Gabriel Jesus, it's like he always got injured, so you shouldn't be surprised. But before then, they used to have a squad like decimated with injuries. So I don't know if that's still the case, if that guy is heading in the physio department. But yeah, Colin, I'm a little suspect. I know that like Klopp will sometimes get that criticism on training and definitely fixtures and then the time added on that adds to it. But I think I was talking with Neil in the chat or on one of the streams about like just I wonder what the stats break down between back in like the 60s, etc. How many games are played versus how many injuries? I don't know, like, because it seemed like quality of pitch is so much better. There's so much going for why there shouldn't be more injuries today, and yet it seems like we're seeing a period where there's more injuries than ever. But Brandon, what are your thoughts on that?
I think you kind of like touched on. I think this is kind of the trade-off of playing like Klopp style, like high intensity stuff like that. You're going to have injuries just because it's so intense all the time. But I think it's more down to the amount of games the players are expected to play. Like it used to be, we had like international friendlies, and now like no, these actually count for something. And it's like then we're going to add more Champions League games. We're going to add more of these games. We're going to add more of these games, and these all games have to be important. And I mean, it's been 5-6 years since Klopp started calling like we were playing far too much. We need to cut back. These boys are going to start getting hurt. And we're starting to see it because it's not just Liverpool's got injury issues. I mean, I know a couple weeks ago I watched Crystal Palace and there was no Eze, there's no Decore, there's no, and then Elise came on for 9 minutes and then walked off hurt. So like
Chris Richards was playing central midfield for them.
Yeah, they had to go get some kid from the championship to like try to help out at the defensive mid. Like a lot of teams are going through injury issues, and it seems like it's just they're being ran ragged just so the FA can make more money. But I can go on anti like establishment rants all day long if I have to.
I'm coming with you.
Yeah. That's what I just think it's the combination of Klopp styles football and then all the games that they're demanded to play. Like a couple years ago, we played like 65 games, all comps.
Yeah, I think there's like over the past 5 years, I don't think that there's. I mean, it's like us and Man City who have only played the most amount of games
Yeah.
All comps over that amount of time. Like we play more than pretty much everybody else, and you're right, we do play in a manner that is really putting an emphasis on the physical demands of the game rather than just, I feel like Pep style can almost look like walking through a game at times. Um in a very like messy type way, which is like we're gonna walk around until we run and score. When inversely, obviously, Jurgen's idea of like how to play is like, it doesn't matter if you're 5'8" or 6'4", like go into a tackle and get the ball back. And I think you're very right about that. It's like the demands just kind of catch up to you over time.
I'll throw in one just like devil's advocate because I'm curious to see like stat breakdowns. Like I was saying, like in the past, like 70s, 80s, but even like under Brendan Rodgers, because I'm trying to remember. I don't think we had a great squad whatsoever, but I don't remember there being decimatingly, injury crisis throughout the team for extended periods of time or year on year. And Brendan's was a pretty high intensity squad. And one story that I'll pick out, kind of like just player wise, like I remember reading Suarez, he like sprained his ankle and his foot was swollen up and he demanded to play. So they got him a size bigger boot to play. And I think it was Everton and he scored the free kick. And I think it was like 3-2 that game or whatever. But Suarez is like, I'm going to actually play with a sprained ankle with one boot that's a size bigger than the other so I can get on the field. So I'm wondering, like, I don't know, like it's hard to argue with like hamstring or etc. Like those kind of injuries, or especially impact injuries. But are players coddled more? Is that getting like a like kind of a mental state where it's like if you expect to trip and fall, like going outside, you're going to trip and fall kind of thing?
I think there is a big difference in the attitude about things like that between, even from just like, as far as that was like 10 years ago, right? That was like 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
I mean, that would, the difference in, I think, attitude around not necessarily like, just sucking it up and like just playing through it, but like the attitude from the organization's standpoint where it's like, if you have a knock, don't play. They're sort of encouraging of that, which was, as I have gotten more and more and more into, like European football, like over that time, over the past 10 years, or I guess slightly longer now, but like that was a massive adjustment to me from someone who's like watching a lot of hockey. Those dudes, like those guys would literally play on a broken leg. The one guy won the Stanley Cup, I think, with the Bruins, and he had a broken leg and played on it for like weeks. I just think the attitude around, like, especially the amount of running that you have to do, really plays into their mind, where it's like, if you have to cover this amount of distance, like you're just not effective at doing that. And probably your backup. So, say if we go from Dominic Szoboszlai to Ryan Gravenberch, like the percentage loss that Szoboszlai would take by trying to take his foot off the gas is just still not as good as like if you just get Ryan Gravenberch like running around and playing a good game. So that like total attitude change between the sports was always something that I have not struggled with, but like just found really interesting, the attitudes towards that.
Yeah, totally. Like, I like how you brought up the American sport comparison as well, especially Star Stripe, Anfield nights. I don't know how much you two watch like the NBA or queuing on that, but I know that's a constant, like the TNT panel with like Shaq and Charles Barkley. They talk about like the coddling of modern players versus 90s basketball when they played. And it was, they were playing, there was athletes playing the full like 82 games a season, not taking days off. And now there's a lot more emphasis on rest and like making sure players aren't playing every game or resting on injuries that back in the 90s players would just play through. And I don't know again, there has to be stats that break it down how effective or what it is, but like the benefit of playing through an injury that you can play through, or just taking yourself out for a few weeks. But and where do you sit on that side of the debate?
Yeah, I think especially with the amount of money that's now in sports, like it is kind of better to be safe with the players because I mean, we put how much like we put like 60, 70 million into Soboslai, like just to get him to the team. Like, yeah, if he has, he doesn't feel like, oh, my ankle's not ready to go, like, and he feels like he should be rested, rest the guy. There's been more important games down the road. It depends on the game. I do want to bring up like the Suarez point you made. I'm not sure if it's ever fair to judge anybody against Luis Suarez because he's an absolute like crazy person. So I think he would probably try to play with like and also bring up the hockey thing. Gregory Campbell's who you're talking about. He broke his leg against the Penguins in the playoffs. The Bruins lost in the finals that year, which still saddens me. And Bergeron was playing with a punctured lung. So yeah. So
I couldn't remember who. I thought it was the Bruins, but I mean, obviously I must have watched that series.
Yeah,
as
he blocked the shot and then had to skate around for like 2 minutes with a completely like shattered tibia, still trying to play defense.
Hockey players.
Yeah.
Speaking of screws loose, hockey players have a couple missing.
Yeah, and then one last hockey point before I get back on topic is the guy last year for the Jets who got like his face sliced open by a skate, and then like the next game was just back on the ice, no problem. Like this close to being blind, he's like, no problem, I can get back out there. Those guys are different. Yeah, but with the amount of money put into players, you do have to kind of protect your investment. That's probably the best way to kind of look at the players, which, being such a business oriented, like kind of ownership group that FSG is, like that's probably what they do see the players as. Not trying to take as a negative thing, but it is like, this is an investment. We're putting it in this player. We need to make sure that we maximize our investment. And that if we are going to move him on, we're moving on for more money, not less money, or that he's going to give us $65 million worth of, memories or goals or, championships or whatever you want to count it as. The coddling thing, I don't know. I always feel like that's always the old generation yelling at the young generation that, back in our day, this is what we did. We did this so much harder and we were so much tougher back then. So I don't put that much stock in stuff like that, but I do see where they come from when you do watch those old NBA videos where Bill Laimbeer is just clotheslining anybody who gets close to him. But yeah, it's mostly just protecting an investment. Also from the player's perspective, protecting your own brand. Like, it's not always about this contract. It's about what am I going to get in my next contract as well, protecting your family.
Yeah. And well, brings us perfectly on to the first part of our title for tonight, the youngsters to the rescue. I think the benefit, or not the benefit, but for the first time in a long time, the fact that we have like 8 injuries in our squad and still have a very impressive lineup to put onto the field speaks to the recruitment and the players who have stepped up. For me, part of the exciting thing, or probably one of the only exciting things about the injuries, is seeing the kids like Quansah and Bradley come up through the ranks and actually put a hell of a marker out for themselves. And they could. It kind of reminds me of when Trent first came into the team. Took the spot from, what was it, Nathaniel Klein?
Mm-hmm.
Klein always got injured, and then Trent got into the team. It was a bit start-stop there at first, and then he made that spot his, and that seems to happen over time with a lot of players. But Quansah and Conor Bradley are definitely making a name for themselves this season. Colin, talk about Quansah and Bradley at the moment. Who do you think, in addition to them, really has the chance of stepping up during this time and potentially claiming spots as their own?
Yeah, I could you imagine where we would be if we didn't have some of these kids? Like who were, even if we didn't think they were ready, nobody, you couldn't have asked anybody in our group, any of the 45 of us in like, I don't know, let's say, October. If you'd have been like, Conor Bradley's going to be a really important player for us this year, you would have gotten like, at least half of the guys have been like, are you an idiot? Like, what are you thinking? And I don't blame them. I probably would have been one of them. This is not I think I am in that group. But I just can't I can't imagine if like the position we might be in if Bradley or Quansah or I feel very comfortable being like Bobby Clark or any of these other guys can go and like they could go play. If we catch a goal or two against Luton and it's 65, and it's like, okay, we got a final and we got to like throw someone on for we want to try to protect Gravenberch's legs or McAllister's, whoever, like sure thing, like let's do it. Put them on. I feel very comfortable about that, and I think that might be as we're we've been kind of thinking about the larger Klopp legacy, as his next 4 months are coming to a close. The progression in the academy and the ability to see a pipeline from a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old to being a member of the first team, wasn't really there. It wasn't really there at all. I don't think. Especially from when Jurgen stepped in, like those guys know the expectations of being a first team member. They know what it would take to win the game, and I would feel comfortable like playing any of them against Luton. Like we're at home. I think the fans will know that we need to get behind whoever's on the field. We'll need to make the atmosphere so that it is the advantage for whoever is playing. I'd trust any of them to do it. I think that is a huge asset.
Yeah, I really like you talking about Klopp's legacy at that point because, looking back, Rodgers, he probably put through Sterling as his, youngster coming through the academy. But Sterling, I was actually back in college and watched the youth team a lot more regularly, and that was when Sterling scored like 5 goals in the FA Cup final, and absolutely it was like impossible to keep him out of the team. I guess Jordan Eby as well came in, or Ibe. I'm not sure. I think it's Eby, but yeah, he was one of Ibe. All right, I guess I'm wrong, but I thought I read like the pronunciation.
You're probably right. I've just never like paid attention.
But yeah, like Klopp has brought through so many youngsters, and even if they don't get the ultimate chance at Liverpool or stake a claim, they're going to have hell of a careers just by what performances they've been given under his reign. Brandon, shifted a bit. We know the youngsters who are coming up with Quansah and Bradley who are going to be big for the next weeks that there's the injuries, but who are the other players you're going to look forward to stepping up? Who do you think's really who hasn't got a look in before or a long run into the side? Who do you think's going to stake their claim in this period?
Colin kind of hit the name Bobby Clark. I really like Bobby Clark every time I've seen him. Like I think there's a lot of talent in that kid, and I think he's going to have a future at Liverpool. It's just. And Paul in the comments, like McConnell will do a job. I'm not sure what the ceiling is for McConnell. Like, I'm not sure. I just haven't seen him enough to know like what type of ceiling he's got, but he did look really good in Norwich. And then I think it was just a Norwich game that I'm thinking of. He got the assist in the Norwich game, if I'm thinking right. Yeah, but those two would be the ones that are kind of outside, kind of what we've been talking about, Quansah and Bradley, for who I think is going to have to step up. I think Bobby Clark, I really think he's going to be a stud when he gets a good run in the team next coming year, and like kind of talk about Klopp's legacy. Because I remember when I came in, like that was one of the big things whenever I started rooting for Liverpool, when I kind of started following the club, was to talk about, Liverpool doesn't bring up players anymore. It was like it's Carragher, Gerrard, and then it's just a big gap of anybody who made a lasting impact on the team. There was, Jay Spearing, like even like Shelvey technically, but I mean, I think he came from like Blackpool originally. Then eventually I had Sterling, but he bounced out. There was John Flanagan for that one season where he was magical at left back and then disappeared. Injuries ruined him. And then I'm trying to think of like guys who came up. I mean, there was always there's like, guys you'd hope would be great. There was Conor Cody, had high hopes whenever he was in the academy all them years ago. Cameron Brannigan, I remember him. I thought he was going to be great, and it just never got a shot. Shea Ojo, I was over the moon about how good I thought he was going to be, but it just never quite panned out. And then Harry Wilson as well. Same
Martin
thing.
Kelly was mine. I always thought he was going to come through.
I will stand by that. If Martin Kelly doesn't get hurt, like it doesn't completely tear his ACL, like every single time he touched the pitch, he would have been a world-class center back. Like, I know they get a lot of shtick for when he went to the Euros as like a backup, but I'm like, the kid is so talented, but he just never could stay healthy. I always loved Martin Kelly. But yeah, I think it's Bobby Clark. McConnell would be another good shout, but yeah, I think Bobby Clark is like the one that can really see taking the next few games or next couple times he got on the pitch and really taking it by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah, it'll be definitely exciting to see the next new wave because there's certainly enough youngsters staking their claim. I was going to save Paul's comment for towards the end of the stream, but we can throw it on here talking about youngsters. I know he's not a youngster per se, since he's already seen first team action, but definitely fell out of favor in the squad. But Fabio Carvelli doing amazingly well on Hull City. Seems like a great call to pull him back from RB, was it Salzburg, and put him over, or Leipzig? Leipzig, and bring him back to Hull. And then the other loanee that throw up there as well is Tyler Morton. So both of them seem to be absolutely flying. But would you consider at this stage of the season, Colin, pulling back any of our youngsters from loan at this stage?
Frankly, one more serious injury at either midfield or forward, and especially forward. I think midfield, we mentioned McConnell and Clark. I think those guys can do a job where you need them, and I think the prospects of getting maybe some guys back, Spozlai, Trent, like people who can, those guys can cover, and from what I've heard, Curtis's injury is not that long term. So maybe midfield's a little more covered, but like if there's another forward who takes a serious injury, a Jota-esque 2 months or more sort of injury, absolutely, like you do what you need to do. You need to do in that point, and I think kind of similar thing, like knock on wood, and heaven forbid, but like if something happens to another defensive midfielder, someone takes it, gets stepped on badly, breaks a toe, like whatever it might be, like you bring Tyler Morton back as quickly as you can. You apologize to their club because they're for the both of them, they've been really important and their performances have been quite good, but and I guess it would be good to have have players who are getting consistent minutes and doing well by all accounts. Wouldn't be ideal because I know that action does kind of ruin relationships with clubs, at times, especially, we might not be sending people out to Hull on loan anytime soon again. But yeah, I mean, it heaven forbid that happens. But if it does, like, I don't think that, you don't think about it for a second at all. You get those guys back in. You can't just like continue to pull from the under 21s and expect to be playing at anywhere near the same level. It just is not. And someone getting consistent minutes in the championship would still be a step up from that.
I totally agree with that. All right, moving forward to tomorrow's game. So pretty immediately forward. Brandon, who do you think will start the match? Who do you think will start the match? And how would you approach it personally for lineup wise?
I think you got to go strong 11 to start off the game. Like, go out there and try to blitz it. Try to see if you can get 2-0 up in 20 minutes, maybe 3-0 at halftime. If you can really make that type of push. Luton has been, much better than a lot of people would expect it to be this year. But if you can really come out there and blitz them, kind of pull the reins in at halftime, make the subs, that'd be like kind of your best options. Well, that'd be the best case scenario. But as we've known for Liverpool for years, we don't really do anything as best case scenario. Usually try to make it as hard as possible. Obviously Kelly in goal, Kelleher, Bradley at right back. I think you go, let's say Quansah and Virgil as center back, Robbo at left, Endo, McAllister, and Gravenberch, Darwin, Yakpo, and who's even left at this point?
Yes.
Huh? Oh, Diaz, duh. That's one person I was forgetting. My bad. Yeah, so yeah, Diaz, Yakpo, and Nunez like up top. Like just try out there and try to get them. Just come out flying. Come out there just the game plan of we're just going to blitz them and see if we can get to the point where we can rest a couple of you guys. Because I know even Nunez is kind of carrying something, but so I don't know. This is such a weird thing. I think though, I want to go back a little bit to the loan thing. Is Carvalho even? If I don't think we can recall Carvalho, because isn't like a rule you can't play for 3 teams in one season?
Ooh, it's a good call.
Because he'd been with Leipzig, he's been with Hall, and then I don't think he could play for us this year.
Is that a FA rule though, or is that a like UEFA rule?
That's what I don't know. I may be completely making up a rule like on the fly right here, but I know there's some like loan rules out there where, or like sometimes you can't transfer to a team, then transfer to another team within the same window or something like that. Like, I'm not sure if that's the way the loans would work. And then I know sometimes it's if you loan within the same country, you can't recall during, or if you recall, they can't play until the next transfer window opens or something like that. I know I played Football Manager enough to know there's some stupid rules out there. So.
Like quickly looking up Lazar Markovic's loan spells just because how many times
I still remember that scissor kick against Sunderland where he put it off like the crossbar. I'm like, this guy's the greatest thing that's ever happened to Liverpool, and then he never did anything else.
It's 60 grand a week, 5 years. Just beautifully done from him.
Wow.
No, anyway, moving on from Lazar Markovic. Totally agree with you, Brandon, on strong lineup for Luton. I think for me, I always say that winning is a habit, and the best thing you can do is stay in that habit. Getting a comfortable win as quickly as possible against Luton at home, huge difference. But like you said, if we can get 2-0 up in the first half and kind of start taking off players, 60th minute, 70th minute, maybe as precaution, and wrap them up for Chelsea the weekend, that'd be perfect. But I think it's very important to win these must-win games in the Premier League and keep that pressure on City, because as we saw today, City did not play well. They got lucky for the goal, and they are vulnerable. So we don't want to give anyone a sniff in the lead when we have it in our grasp. So totally agree. I think you start the strongest side you can. Maybe like a Quansah in defense, when you can afford one here or there. Maybe Elliott up top instead of, Gakpo or Diaz or Nunez, depending on who you want to rest. Something like that potentially for me. But otherwise, Gravenberch and McAllister in the midfield. Get them synced too, because especially since like with the Jones and Jota injuries, this is gonna be a game where you might want to see players getting rhythm, the starting 11 getting some sort of rhythm before the Chelsea game, because you don't want fully chopped side starting that game or not have any minutes under their belt playing together. So that's where I'm standing from. So pretty much in agreement with you, Brandon. But Colin, would you be more conservative in the Luton game, or would you start a strong lineup?
I don't think that there are many places to really like to hide almost. Like I don't think that there are many places where you can, or many positions where you can kind of sit guys, because there's not like a ton of like healthy backups just sitting around. I guess if you compare it to like what we've been starting in the past like 3 weeks, then it's not a strong lineup. But like front three is to me it'll be Diaz, Gakpo and Elliott. I I think the midfield will be pretty close to a starting midfield of I think this will be McAllister, Endo, and Gravenberch. And yeah, I would suspect Quansah probably to start. You get Quansah, Bradley, probably Virgil, and then maybe Tsimikas gets a game. All of a sudden it seems we have we have 3 people who are healthy at left back, so that's nice. I would guess that Gomez probably doesn't start in case, and then is able to kind of fill in if needed at multiple positions, and then probably it's down between Robertson and Robertson, Tsimikas at left back. Obviously, nowhere else to go with the goalkeeper. So, I think it's in there. Yeah, I think it's as strong as you could reasonably get. Like I don't think you can. Luton are not going to be bullied around by a full team of our under 21s.
Yeah, Luton, as their home form, definitely shows that they can show up and cause teams a lot of trouble. We're not the only one that dropped points at Luton, but they definitely have had more difficulty on the road, and I do think Anfield will be huge because we know how important it is. Despite, I think, oh boy, not him, has saying the title race is over. To win a league, you need luck. And Diaz and Gakpo are worst forwards left. Hope you feel a little more optimistic moving forward, oh boy, not him, because for me at least, I agree you do need luck to win the league, but I think the team that has the most magic in the Premier League or in world football, and it's hard to look past Liverpool. You have those storybook moments of, Istanbul, Alisson's header. Like you can go on, just magic moments that I think Liverpool fans are privileged to witness year in, year out. And maybe this is another one of those years. So I'm never going to get down or not even when things go wrong, but I'm certainly not going to count us out until it's mathematically impossible for us to not win something. But that being said, if Diaz and Gakpo are worse forwards left, I just think that's still a hell of a forward line. They haven't always been at their best, especially this year, but there's plenty of goals we can replay in our heads from both of them that are, top tier goals. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And we definitely have options, especially at left back, as you guys said. But I'll kind of, since we won't meet until after the cup final this weekend. I definitely want to sort of finish up towards that or take the next 10 minutes to kind of dissect that, because Luton's obviously, as we're talking about, a big game that we don't, Colin, as I said, we don't have that many options to rest, but we do need to win these 3 points. But the Chelsea final is very interesting now. They put in a hell of a performance against City. Much gratitude for taking points off them, but back to hoping they don't have a scrap of luck against us this weekend. But they're hit and miss. They're on fire one week, dreadful the next week. Brandon, what kind of Chelsea do you think we get on Sunday? How hard do you think this match will be?
This will be tough because this is Chelsea's season. This is really it for Chelsea. But aren't they? Are they still in the FA? I don't even know if they're in the FA Cup still. I can't remember, but it doesn't.
They might be.
They might be, but it doesn't really matter because, they're not going anywhere in the league. They're not getting top 4. Like, they're not going to get relegated, which would have been awesome to see after all the money they spent. But then at the same time, they're not in like Champions League now. So, I mean, this is their season. This is what they have to play for. So this will be probably one of the most up Chelsea. It's definitely not going to be what they were at Anfield, where it was just a walk in the park for us. As much as I would love that, I would absolutely love to have a cup final where I'm not, on the edge of my seat until the 90 or the 125th plus minute, and Kelleher's got to put in a winning penalty and stuff. I don't want any of that. I just want a nice, easy Sunday. I want to enjoy that. It's been a long couple weeks for me. I wanted just a nice little easy breezy Sunday. So, but that's not the way it works. Chelsea's going to be as up for this game as possible, and I think they're going to be kind of really licking their lips at the fact that Liverpool is right now in kind of a crisis injury wise. So I mean, they're going to have kind of midfields that haven't been able to gel together or haven't been able to work together and as a unit the way kind of Soboslai, Jones, and McAllister were earlier in the year, where they were kind of really gelling, or the way Endos came in and really gelled into that as well. We're going to have kind of a fresher midfield that's still going to have to learn to play together in a cohesive way in a cup final. So it's quite a big ask. But at the same time, Chelsea have so many players that, I mean, Poch may put the wrong player in because he could have put in 17 other different players who play that exact same position, and they could have been better. But I don't know. It'll be a tough game. It's always a tough game against Chelsea in a final. Like, even if they're way down, it's still Chelsea. They still have they still know how to win cups. They got here, so I mean, they know how to get to the finals.
I totally agree, Brandon. It's definitely, this is their probably biggest game of their season that they'll have, and yeah, I'm still confident going in. I agree with you. Like, the amount of mistakes that Poch could make just on team selection, I don't think he knows his best team. Evident, but the midfield, like, we absolutely destroyed their midfield when we played them the other week. But they also did extremely well on the counter against City. Curious to see how Poch will line up. He'll have that experience with Tottenham against us in the Champions League final, so I don't think he's going to be as naive against us. I think it will be. I wouldn't be surprised if it's another 0-0. But Colin, how do you think? Who are you most worried about on the Chelsea lineup on Sunday? Who do you not want to see in the starting 11?
I mean, it's Cole Palmer. Any combination of did Nkunku get injured again, or is he healthy? I can't remember. If Nkunku is healthy and you get a Nkunku and Cole Palmer duo on the field, that's easily the most worrisome for me. I'm not really worried about anybody else, frankly. I don't think we need either of them to have a realistic chance. I think we certainly better our chances with the both of them, which is why you can almost guarantee that neither of them will be playing tomorrow. I in fact, if I could put a bet on neither of them touching the field, I would this moment. I would almost guarantee that Salah plays on the weekend. If he is, we were talking earlier about players playing through things. He would absolutely play through a slight tweak, as he knows it's a cup final. Like I really believe that. So I mean, in terms of Chelsea players, like they're pretty cut and dry who I am and am not scared of. There's you got Enzo Fernandez, who on his day can be one of the best midfielders in the world. Not that he's shown it in a while, but he can. Yeah, Cole Palmer, same thing. I think on his day is really dangerous. To me, when I watch him, though, he does look to be affected by a mentality. So if we're assuming that he's going to have a, very positive, like we can win a championship mentality going in, I would be worried of him. And Nkunku, as long as he is healthy, is an incredibly gifted footballer, someone who is a quality player and can show all of his qualities, despite playing in a bad team. I think it still comes down to that. I don't think Chelsea can defend against us, almost regardless of who is playing. And I could, although if the team is weakened enough, I could see this being a real 2-2, like there will be goals, sort of sort of game. Contrary to what you might think, or how the last couple of finals have gone against Chelsea, which have been all nil-nils, goalless.
Yeah, I agree with you. Cole Palmer, for me, can definitely create so well, and when he scores, he's probably Chelsea's best player. And Kunku is definitely, I don't think he's hit his top form. Like, his Leipzig form was absolutely insane, and he's had injury problems since he came in Chelsea. So, but he came in and scored against us, and just shows how clinical he is as a finisher. And he's got a lot of skill as well. So he's there, but I think just because he's not fully fit or, in flying form for me, a little less so. I think Paul talked about Raheem. I still love Raheem. Like I think Liverpool supporters give him way too much grief for leaving. Kid, I don't need to go into that, but that's just my standpoint. But he tends to never play well against us. Funny enough, I think there might be one game that he scored against us, but that was about it on City. Knock on wood. But I think those are, and then Conor Gallagher for me, I think he can be a pest. So, but he also is one that doesn't always do well against us. So we'll see. But Colin, 2-2. I think that's a bold claim. I'm trying to I wonder what our record is on finals. I swear to God, what we scored. One goal against Real Madrid, 2 goals against Spurs, and that's it, right? In all the finals,
we scored a goal against Sevilla in the Europa League final.
One goal
against Man City in that year as well.
Man City in that one, yeah. So averaging 1 point,
that's
1.12 goals.
That's the things. I don't think I've ever watched us play good in a final. The best final we've ever played was one where we lost to Madrid, the second one. That's where the best performance I've ever seen us play in a final. The other ones have been like Spurs one just got completely thrown out the window because of the early penalty, and it was just us we've got the lead, and Spurs ain't scoring against us, so we can kind of just didn't have to go out to the game plan. But I don't think we've ever really played that well. I thought maybe the other Madrid one we played okay, because really after the Salah injury, it was just how are we going to beat this? How are we going to beat Madrid without that year Mo? And we gave it a shot, and obviously some bad luck happening in that game. But I don't think we've ever really played that well. I don't think the year when we played Chelsea twice, I don't think we played very well in either game. We played well defensively, but I thought offensively we're just sloppy. I don't know if it's a mental thing or it's just Klopp kind of, I don't know, his team talk, those games where he puts too much pressure. I don't know what it is. But I don't think we've ever really played that well in a final.
The one final I remember us playing well in was the first half of the Sevilla game, and then Alberto, I was like, holy crap! We're absolutely we're winning this. Daniel Sturridge's goal at the end. I was like, yes.
That's one of the most beautiful forgotten goals ever. Is that Sturridge goal? It's such a beautiful
outside of the left.
And Alberto Moreno like a little piece of dynamite.
Oh my god! I remember he just got megged so bad, and then, oh my god! But he redeemed himself by winning against United in my eyes, and that did it. But let's see, who would you guys start? Because that's for me the biggest question, and I'll throw this out first I'll throw a curveball out there for you guys, but I know the other week I said starting Connor Bradley against Chelsea was the play. So I'm patting myself on the back for that one because Paul, I think you and others were saying don't start him. But I actually would start Gomez in the final. I know that's a bold claim. It might be a stupid claim, but I think his pace is actually very underrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious with McAllister and Endo in the midfield, how fast they'd be on recovery. And Chelsea, after seeing Chelsea against Man City, I think Connor Bradley has an amazing going forward. He's an amazing defender. But I think Gomez's pace and having him in a little more reserved role with Robertson being the one running up and down the wings could benefit us. But what do you think are going to be the crucial decisions, the crucial points in the game, who are you starting and who do you think are going to be the crucial components and matchups for that game? Brandon, I'll start with you.
Well, I think the crucial ones will be the right back question. Do you go with kind of more defensive minded Joe, or do you go with Conor? This kind of, this question's kind of, I guess, tough to answer because for me, it is dependent on what happens tomorrow. Like, if Elliott goes out there and gets a start or something like that, and this has an absolute worldie, like, how do you keep him on the bench for Sunday? And if he's playing at his max, or maybe Gravenberch goes out and is very ineffectual, it's like, do we have to mix up the midfield? Because I think from what I said for the starting for Luton, the big change would be Quansah out, Konate in. That's the easy one. And then maybe you go back to Gomez being left back and Bradley on the right. It worked well against Chelsea at Anfield, but big game, different game. I think I'd rather have Robbo there. Yeah, it's tough. That the right back question would be the big one. And then I guess kind of what you do in the midfield. If, say, Bradley either has a great game tomorrow if he plays, which he should be playing, or if, somebody is ineffectual or something like that. Like, how much does that change how we look into Sunday? But really, right back, I think how well Bradley was playing, like, I think you just have to start him. You just have to ride the hot hand. And if, it's the Carabao Cup, as much as we want to win a final, it's fourth place in what we want. So, I can live with Bradley maybe not being up to it and we get beat 1-0 or something like that. I'll live with it. I won't be happy, but I'll live with it. But, I think he's earned his right to get this opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's hard to bench someone when they're in flying form. That's why I still put Gomez in, but I still agree with your thinking. It's just, for me, gut feeling on that one. But Colin, where are you standing on who starts and what do you think is going to be the key decisions for that game?
Yeah, so I actually think it is. I think that it's both. I think Gomez will start at left back, and I think Bradley will start at right. I think with the potential for Salah being out, so let's assume that Elliott starts at right wing. I don't think he poses as much of a threat to get to the end line or to beat someone that way. So they know that he likes to tuck inside. So you need someone to be able to push way up high all the way outside, which I think needs it then to be the right back, to then give the width and give that kind of, especially in the attacking third, stretch them that way. So I think Bradley will be the pick on that side. I think, yeah, I like your reasoning for Gomez needing to start. I think that is correct. I think if you get Bradley to get up, way high and wide there, then that makes it really easy for a back three of Gomez, or functionally a back three of Gomez, Virgil, and Ibu to cover those spaces so well, all with really great athleticism and intelligence in defending. Like, I think that makes the most sense, which gives then the midfield a good balance. I would assume that Endo starts. I would assume that I think McAllister, as long as everything's fine, to the comment, which the whole midfield needs subbed off. Yeah, if we're up and McAllister's on at 60, get him out of here. Get him out of here. Cover him up in bubble wrap. Make sure that he is sent home in a nice protected case. Same thing. I mean, same thing with Gravenberch. I think if you can afford it, get them off and get them ready for the week, for the weekend, because I think that they're going to be really, really important. But then as well, I think the balance works out fairly well if you have Diaz, Gakpo, who is very good at playing. I think that somewhere between a traditional 9 and a Bobby Firmino can drop in and give support to the midfield if we need to overload and build up through there. And Elliott's always better when he's coming inside. So again, giving that someone else having that responsibility of giving the width, making the fullback stay positionally disciplined, and outside to cover our fullback gives Elliott a lot of freedom and a lot of ability to kind of exploit spaces, those half spaces, which is where he's definitely best. But again, you don't have to start in that position to be effective in that position during the game.
Yeah, I'm tempted if Salah's a no-go for Sunday, I would start Elliott on the right because I would want somebody up top who could make an impact if we needed, whether that's Gakpo. Well, it'd probably be Gakpo or Diaz because Nunez has the legs to play 120 minutes if necessary. I don't know if anyone else in that front lineup, Elliott, Gakpo, or Diaz has 120 minutes in their legs or 120 minute like full. But I'm gonna ignore Paul's question of would you sacrifice 2 points tomorrow? Because I do not like thinking about stuff like that. Yeah. Paul, I'm sorry, but
I don't sacrifice anything.
Yeah, I don't think it's an either or, and I don't like that hypothetical. But I'll sorry guys, it's my night to cook tonight, so I can't stretch it too long. So I'll end the question with what's your score prediction, Colin? I know you said 2-2, but I'm giving you a chance at a redo. And who are your goal scorers?
On the weekend or for tomorrow?
We'll do both. Okay. Luton and the weekend.
So I think Luton will be 3-1. Tell me if you've heard that score line once or twice or 8 times before this year. And so I guess more so on the weekend, more so than 2-2. I just think it's going to be a tie. It's going to be a tie. Whether that is, 0, 1, or 2, I think it's going to be a tie. Which unfortunately, puts us in the place of having to go back to penalties probably. Which, we've had a great record, but like still makes me like literally pull hair out. So I don't prefer to have that happen, but the thinning is going to continue, unfortunately.
And unfortunately, I agree with you, Colin. I want to say like 2-1 Liverpool for the final, but I think it's going to be a tie. I think it's going to be 0-0. And it's just going to be a stressful evening or stressful morning for me, 7 a.m. But fingers crossed we win penalties or just get it over the line somehow. And I'll go for just a nice, simple 2-0 victory tomorrow. Absolutely no worries whatsoever. 2 goals in the first half, cruise in the second half. Everyone off and wrapped in bubble wrap for the weekend. But that's me. Brandon, final say for score predictions.
Tomorrow I'll go 2-0. I think we'll just go 2-0. I think it's a game. Hopefully we're 2-0 up at halftime, and it's not one where we are 1-0 up in the 80th minute and we're still having to push for something. It's 2-0. Sunday, Paul's already stole my thunder in the comments by saying 1-0 on a Joe Gomez goal. So thanks for that, Paul. But no, my real one, I'm going to be boring and go 3-1. I think if Elliott's starting on the right wing, I think this is his coming out party. This is the moment where he christens like what we've all kind of been believing about him for years, that, he's kind of the future of Liverpool in a way. I think he'll get 2 goals. I'm going wild there. Put the money on it, guaranteed. Lose your money along with Brandon. But, if Ivan Toney didn't score this weekend, I would have won like $150. So I'm very happy that he's back from his suspension to lose me money on betting on him. So, but no, yeah, 3-1. I'll go 3-1 on the weekend. I feel like it's a game that if one team scores, the other team will score. It's going to be, it's either going to be 0-0 or both teams are definitely scoring. Like it's not going to be a team shutting out the other one. There's going to be no clean sheet if both teams ain't getting a clean sheet. I think once a goal goes in, the game will open up greatly. And if the game's opening up greatly, I think if Nunez can play, or if somebody can really get running at Thiago Silva, who's, obviously got up there in age and doesn't have quite the legs he used to, I think really we can start opening things up the way we did at Anfield. But it'll be a key to just kind of get that first goal. If we're the team that gets the first goal, I can see us winning 3-1, maybe even pulling away farther than that if we can really kind of get after it the way we can.
Yeah, 100%. And hopefully, your mouth to God's ears, Brandon. I hope it's a 3-1 victory for us on Sunday.
Yeah, I hope it's like 3-0 at halftime, and I can
yeah. So hopefully, yeah. Next time we see you guys, we'll all have big smiles on our face, still celebrating from the weekend, and a win on tomorrow, Wednesday as well. But thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Star Stripes Anfield Night every Tuesday. We all love to be a part of this and love you guys in the comments. This community's been awesome. Really appreciate the support and everyone's chats in the comments. Everyone have a great week. You'll never walk alone, and hopefully we'll all see you smiling next Tuesday. So have a great